Hi, friends, and welcome. I am your hot mess of a host, Mary Hendricks from The Very Merry Life, your new mom friend that soon will feel like an old friend. Twice a week, every week, I want you to come and join me as we cover moments in motherhood, marriage, sex, and more. Some moments worth savoring, others worth surviving, all with a laugh, pep talk, or F-bomb every now and again. I want you to come as you are, but leave the sugarcoating behind because, guys, we know how sweet it already is. So what do you say? Up for picking some daisies? All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back and welcome, Morgan, Dr. Morgan.
How dare you not say doctor? Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you. I'm pumped, and I know everyone is going to be excited for this because I've recently had more individuals like yourself that talk on subjects that you do, and every time I do, it's conversations that need to happen big, and I know that everyone listening, you guys are going to be taking away something from this conversation, so I'm pumped.
I'm pumped to be here. So yeah, I love your content, love what you do.
Thank you. Thank you. So before we get in, I always like to have everyone introduce yourself or themselves. So you go ahead and tell us about you.
I always find this to be the hardest question. So dumb. Okay. So I have my doctorate in psychology. I've been in the field of relationship education for around 15 years. Worked alongside my dad for about 12-ish of those years. He also has the same degree. And we were like making courses before people made courses type of thing. We've kind of been doing this a really long time. And my specialty is really taking psychological concepts and principles and translating them into practical and actionable advice. And many, many years ago. So I have two kids. I have a daughter, Effie, who's 10, and then our son, Roy, is 7. They're family names because they sound like they're elderly, but they're family names.
Oh, I love that.
And, long time ago working with my dad, I had said, someday I want to help women. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I just know, that's going to be where I kind of stand on my own. Like, you do your thing. That's what I want to do. And fast forward many, many years, Effie was born. And there's just like a lot of different circumstances in my life that made it extra tricky. But I think going into it, I thought I was going to be like, I would just crush it as a mom. I thought it would be such a good mom. I have a degree in human development and family science. I have a PhD. I was like, whatever, I got this. And I was just blindsided by how overwhelming it was, how much anxiety came up for me that I just wasn't accustomed to. And, how like resentful I became toward my husband, which was kind of a new experience for me to be like that, feeling that intensity of it. And that's when I knew. I was like, someday I'm not going to feel like this. Someday I'm going to kind of, get my bearings. I'm going to come out of the haze. I think we all sort of live in that haze really, really early on in motherhood. And it's like, someday I'm going to do something to help moms. And so that's what I do now. And I love it. And it's such an honor and a privilege and like to talk to people like you and just to share about what I have to say about motherhood and my experience and my expertise. And so that's what I do. I live in California, but I'm from Ohio. I feel like that's important for me to say. I don't know why, because I'm just like, I have a lot of pride about being from Ohio.
Midwest.
I live in Southern, right? Midwest is best, baby.
My question, knowing Ohio, where'd you go to college?
Miami of Ohio.
Okay.
And
my sister went there.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I have a theory that everybody has an Ohio connection, and it's literally, I've never been wrong. Anytime I've talked to somebody, they're like, oh, like my husband's dad grew up in Ohio. There's always something.
That's
but
funny.
Yeah, I did the Ohio tour. So Miami of Ohio and then master's at Ohio State. And then I went to Akron for my doctorate. So.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I went to Purdue
that means
University.
Anything too.
Yeah.
Purdue,
yeah.
of course. Yeah.
So
good school.
It was, big 10 and competitor with Ohio State. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. My sister went to Miami of Ohio and this is total different tangent, but I went to Purdue. My brother went to Purdue, and it was a big decision because either she went to Purdue and she got accepted, but she loved Ohio State and she chose that, but she absolutely loved it. I've loved it. When I visited it, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful
Miami.
campus. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's such a it's just exactly when you think of going to college, that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I loved it.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Corn fed,
tractor riding country folk.
There you go.
was my
I love
growing
it.
up.
I love it. Well, I know you and I got connected. I don't even know when. I always think about like who liked who's first, but I think I may have followed you first or you followed me. I don't know. But all I know is that we connected because we are in obviously a very similar realm. But I remember landing on your page and going through your content, and I loved it because not only did it feel, I mean, you got that relatability factor where it was like you felt understood. You didn't feel like you were being talked down to because of a superiority. It was more of a, I'm talking to you as someone who has also been in it or is in it, feeling, which was just so nice and realistic. And it was just, it again, it's the conversations that are just, they're so hard to have with people that don't get it. And I feel like it's very hard to find those people that are willing to have those conversations because that's what makes motherhood so freaking isolating is it's the fact that we feel like we can't talk about real common things.
Totally. I mean, that's such a nice compliment because that's what I'm going for. I mean, and I guess it's just who I am is like, I'm an open book, like about motherhood, marriage, ask me the things I will dish. Like I have no problem sharing. And even when I wrote my book, I remember talking with, when I was putting my proposal together, I was talking to my agent. She's like, what's like the tone? Like, what do you want it to feel like? And I was like, I want it to feel like you're sitting down to coffee with a mom friend, but like also she has a credential, you know, she's credentialed, you know? So it's like, there's expertise in there and there's practical tips and tools, but ultimately you're talking with somebody who gets it and who lives it. And I am in it. Like I mean, my kids are getting older, which is a different ball game than the intensity of toddlerhood and when you have an infant. But also I only work 2 days and also I homeschool part-time and I'm a stay-at-home working mom doing all this stuff. Like I am in it. And so I get it. Yeah. And I have a husband who travels a ton. So if you talk like mental load stuff, I'm mostly carrying it the majority of the time. So I get that. And like, he's a guy, you know, I married a man's man. And so like that comes with different, complications and conversations and growth that's required. And so I feel like almost everything I talk about on my account, I've done this, we've worked through this, or we're working through this, or, I'm living it. So,
yeah. Well, and that's the biggest thing is like, I feel like it's such a, motherhood has become such an individual sport. And I think we've gotten away from the team mentality. And it's just because we, like you said, we all have our own things that we're going through. And I feel like whenever I've met a different account that is going through it, and sometimes like accounts that are very similar to yours, it doesn't feel realistic in conversation with the fixes that they give and like the things like that. It's, I liked what you said the other day. You put out a reel. It was like, we're tired of being told like, I forget what you said. Like maybe it was the you're enough.
We're enough.
Things like that. I personally love saying that, but I say that for more of like a mental aspect of it because I think it's just one of those things that I constantly have to tell myself with. But at the same time too, I actually this is a total side note. I listened to a podcast and it was actually a man who said that every morning he would wake up and say, you're enough, you're enough. And then finally he woke up and he said, I was done with that. He said, I am enough. No more questioning whether it is. He's like, enough. He said, I got rid of
enough is enough.
And he said, I actually got rid of I think he said, I got rid of the you are. And he said, enough. Enough. Yeah. Oh, He's like, enough. I know. And I loved it. I was like, okay, I'm sticking with that one from now on. But it is. It's hard. I think it's hard with the realm. And I feel like lately it's two extremes. It's the toxic positivity side. And then it's the complete opposite of it where no one's doing the middleman thing anymore.
I'm trying to live in the middle. I mean, like we were talking about content before we hopped on and like, oh, it's such a tricky piece for me because I don't know if you feel this tension too, but I feel like it's exactly what you're saying. It's either toxic positivity. We're going to reframe everything, you know, like I don't know what, like the days aren't long. It's just more time to soak up your kids. Like, come on. It sucks sometimes. Like it's not always easy. It's not always lovely. And then the other side is just complaining all the time, complaining about our partners, complaining about motherhood. And like, where does that get you? No. And so I think it's like, I feel like I'd be a bigger account if I leaned into one of those, maybe heavier, especially the complaining seems to go. But also it's like, I am not willing to participate in perpetuating that type of messaging because it's not like we have to have a space to vent. I'm not against venting, but just like complaining is not a reliable source of change. I'm sorry. Like we need actually things we can do.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a tricky space in walking that line in the motherhood kind of sphere.
Yeah. And I said the other day, cause I got frustrated because, there was something I saw, and it was a reel I saw on Instagram, and it was it wasn't a big account. It was just something that popped up on my feed. And I think it was pushing homeschooling, which I know you said you do it part-time. I commend you. Like I've toyed with that idea.
Everybody. It's not for everybody.
Right now, in my time of life, it's not for me. I'm very much looking forward to school starting in 3 weeks. But it was a reel, and it was basically saying like, let's change the narrative for moms of saying like I'm excited for my kids to go back to school. And that's why I put out a reel the other day saying like, you're allowed to say you're excited for school to start, because for me in particular, that's the only support I have. I don't have any outside support aside from my mother's helper that's downstairs with my kids that comes over once a week.
Which is like nothing.
Yeah. So I get that, but I don't have my in-laws. My parents are not available during the summer. So it's just like, I need school. Big time. Ugh. And this whole guilt trip of it. And I went on a tangent on my stories because I was like, the moms that are saying that they're excited for school, and majority of moms that do put out like the reels that are a little bit more complaining and things like that, they know the other side. It's not really them that needs to change the narrative per se. It's everyone else that needs to change it so that way we don't complain anymore. Like there is not a system that's put in place to allow us to be the parents that everyone wants us to be per se, where I'm like, we got to fix it. Obviously, if there's a reason why people are complaining, there's something going on, but it's hard.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Eye-Opening Moments podcast are real-life stories of adversity, encounters, and perspectives. They are moments that can lift your spirits, give you some food for thought, or move you. For the introspective mind that likes to reflect, discover, and find solutions or meaning in a complex life, listen to Eye-Opening Moments podcast.
It is hard. I don't know. There's so much to say about that. And I think like that's like one of the dangers of social media. And like you brought up that reel where I said something about I think it was like, we don't need to be told we're enough. We don't need to be the super mom, super woman thing. And it's funny, like I sat on that reel for a really long time because I was like, I don't even know if I want to post it because it's so black and white. And I feel like this is one of the problems with social media. Like it's so black and white to be like, we need to stop complaining about, motherhood, or stop like complaining about the summer and wanting to send your kids to school. It's not okay to be excited about that. It's like, stop being so black and white about that. There's way more nuance. You can love your kids to death and also be ready for them to go back to school. I can hear my kids screaming as we're recording this. And I'm like, that would be great if you were at school right now because it's super distracting. Yeah. And like, so it's just, and like the enoughness, like I think there's a place where enoughness is helpful, but when we're offering enoughness as a solution to being really burnt out in motherhood, that's not enough. Like that's not like, stop it. That's not going to make us feel better. So it's like, even that reel was like, oh, this is too black and white for me. I've struggled with posting these things. I'm going to put it out there anyway. It feels really uncomfortable, but I think there's a ton of content like that, where it's just like, it's a sliver of the story.
Yeah.
And so as we consume this stuff, we can end up feeling, triggered by it or irritated or hurt or offended. And it's like, okay, it's just a sliver of a story.
Yeah. No. And I had someone on TikTok, they responded to like the reel I did that's like, I'm excited for school. And they said, you must, why do you all even have kids if you hate being there for them consistently?
These people still out there. Are we still doing this?
Oh yeah. Well, and funny enough, her account got banned. Like you go to it and I didn't delete her comment, but her account got banned. And I was like, well, she's probably being an asshole to someone else. Yeah. Right? But I responded back and I had another mom comment. She's like, Mary, stop being so nice. And I was like, I reserve my meanness for people that deserve it. And not many do because I don't give them the
No.
time of day. But I responded and I was like, you don't understand. I was like, because I was like, I'm excited for my kids to go to school so that way I can spend time for myself. And then I'm excited for them to get the mom that they deserve because
Yes.
right now I don't have that ability. And I can tell you right now confidently, they're not getting the best version of me. And
Yes.
I'm excited for that. And that's the part that's the middle part that people are
That's
missing.
the middle part. That's where my reel ended in the same line as what you're saying, which is like, you know, we need as moms to like pour into ourselves. And the reason why we need to do this isn't because like all the cliches that were offered out there, but it's rather because when we don't, and when we pour ourselves into everyone and everything else, we end up so depleted that we show up as our worst selves in our relationships. And it's like, you know, we're trying to be everything to everyone and we end up being a jerk to the people that we're sacrificing ourselves for. And it's like totally backfiring. So
absolutely.
I think to your point, it's like, that makes sense.
I just am curious as to where the standards are coming from. And I know you've probably talked to a lot of women that are feeling this way. Where do you think a lot of these standards are coming from? Do you think social media is playing heavily into that?
Like standards for what moms should be like?
Yeah.
I do have, I have like theories. I mean, I don't know the answer, but I have theories that I can put out there. So I think, one is there is like this rise of the desire to be the perfect parent. When I was writing my book, I had to like check my references. And so my study that I cited was outdated and they did it again. And the percentage actually went up. So it was like 83% of moms, it was a study by Baby Center, said it was important to them to be the perfect mother. And I think that, like at face value, we're like, that's dumb. Who really says they want to be perfect?
I just wonder what that means. Like what that definition is. But yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's like measured by your child's outcome. I don't know. But I think that like part of it is that we are like parenting with a super like an intensity these days that we didn't used to parent with, that we hold ourselves to these really ridiculous standards. Like we worry about what people think we're feeding our kids. We worry we're traumatizing them the one time like we lose our cool that day, that we've like forever messed our children up. I think we're parenting with a lot of intensity, a lot of really high standards, like life needs to revolve around our kids. Like we need to have the perfect Montessori playroom. I think all this stuff ups the standards. And so there's a lot more room to feel like we're falling short, or even if we're meeting some of those standards, it might feel a little bit like empowering to then judge other moms. We also know from research that moms feel more judged and actually are more judged today than in previous generations, which is kind of wild. Yeah. I think another source of these standards is social media. I mean, there's like tons of well-intentioned advice on there, but it's like given in, like I said, these little slivers that don't take into account the context of your life or my life. I remember, so Effie, I don't even know if she was a tough baby, but she felt tough to me because I was new and I was freaking out. And she, you know, I remember as a toddler, she started tantruming around like maybe 16 months, pretty big ones. Like she'd bite and throw herself on the ground and like hit her head. And it was really, really intense. And so everything I saw online and on social was like, name it to tame it. And I was like, okay, I freaking name it to tame it. I was like, name it to inflame it. She would freak out. Oh, you're feeling upset? She'd be like, of course I'm upset, woman. And I thought for the longest time, something must be wrong with me or something's wrong with this child because like it's not. And so I think that like there's a lot of advice out there that sets us up to kind of feel like we're getting it wrong or falling short. I think there's always somebody out there who has a better house, bigger bank account, better vacations, more beautiful children, better behaved children, better partner. There's never a shortage of content to compare ourselves to make ourselves feel really crappy. And I think that's another source. So there's more. I could keep going, but I'll let you talk.
No, well, and it's interesting. I think last night, so this past week, and I got on my stories this morning and I was like, hey, like you realize that there's like core successes. And I feel like that's what we're getting away from is like the core successes on things. And then we're getting more involved in like the extra wins. So for example, last night I got on my stories and I shared that my husband and I my kids are little. So I have a 5.5-year-old, a almost 4-year-old, and a 17-month-old. I'm in it.
You're in it.
You're
in the trenches.
Yeah.
You're in it.
So my husband and I typically, most nights, I will feed my kids whatever the heck they want. And then I will send them on their way to go play outside in the backyard, or they will go watch TV, or they will go dance in the other room. They will leave us alone while I make last night we made steak and nice food for us to be able to sit and eat our dinner and be able to chit chat without, we still got interrupted, but it was just nice to focus on us. And I shared that, and the amount of responses that were like, thank you. I got one in particular. It was like, I didn't know you could do that. Of course you can do that. Right? Of course you can. Or like another one I shared was I bought my kids shoes and they look like they have been through war. But it's only been a month and these shoes are filthy. And I took a picture of them. I had people thanking me for sharing dirty shoes.
Isn't it funny? I think that sometimes as a content creator, I forget that like sometimes it's the most basic things that we need to be reminded of. Yeah. I early on in motherhood, I had this she moved away. Mom friends is a whole other thing, but she moved away, so it's such a bummer. But she was like the friend we just like did life with because our kids, were the same age, and we were on a play date once, and I was like eating my lunch, and Effie came up and was like, "Give me some," and I was like, "No. This is my food. Here's your food." And I wouldn't share with her. And I don't even remember. This isn't like some ethic I have. I just was like, no, I'm freaking looking forward to my meal. Like, get away from me. You get everything of mine. Yeah. And she was like, maybe it was like months later. She goes, I will never forget that day you didn't share your food. And I didn't even know I could do that. And I was like, that's why. This is the stuff that lands. Sometimes, we just need the most simple reminders. Yeah.
No, and it's always those moments for me, especially because I lately on the content front of things, like especially in stories, I am a stay-at-home mom. Like I said, I got my mother's helper that's downstairs, but I'm home and I try to do this and balance all that, and that's impossible. There's no such thing as balancing anything. But I do this and I stay home a lot because I am in the thick of it where it's like I'm nap trapped. My son is sleeping, but I'm nap trapped. I don't go many places. Even if I could go places, going somewhere with 3 little kids who don't understand. My oldest maybe understands snow, but she recently does not understand the concept of money. Going somewhere like Target and saying like, no, we cannot buy this today.
I have a hack for you. Yeah, can I tell you?
Yes.
Okay, and maybe you already know this, so then I'm going to feel like a jerk if you already know this.
No, tell me.
This is what I did with my son, and it worked so well. It's not my hack. I got it from a book. But you do this. You love that? Oh, let me put it on the list to get it for you for your birthday or for Christmas. Let me put it on the list. And I pull out my phone and I put it on the list, and it literally worked every time. And I don't know how it worked, but you should try that.
All right.
Oh, let's start a list of all the stuff you want, and nothing doesn't make the list.
All right. I will do that. I'll see what that does.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I'm going to totally do it because I literally look at her and I'm like, yeah, no, it's not happening. And
that way you don't have to say no. You just say, I'm putting it on the list.
Yeah. It's like nuts. I was laughing the other day because we were on vacation a few weeks ago. And while we were on the beach, I think my daughter my oldest was kind of getting a little, she's almost 6. So like this age, I actually really love her age, but there's moments where I'm like, oh, Lord, I have to take deep breaths. And we were on the beach and she was doing something. I can't remember what, but so all of a sudden a man walks by holding a fishing pole and he has a big belly and a big white beard. And I looked at her and I was like, that's Santa. He's on vacation. I was like, should we go up to him right now? And she was like, no. And I was like, he's watching. He's always watching. And I was like, and some parents could get so mad at me for that. I was like, I don't care.
You're going to have all the trolls on my side. After you.
I was like, it's on my side. That or we have deer because we're in New Jersey. We have deer, but they'll come in our backyard and just eat. And I'll be like, reindeer, they're checking in. They're checking in. You guys be good. Are you good? But it's funny because my daughter is so honest. She's so innocent where I'll ask them, I'll be like, have you been good today? The deers are coming by. The reindeer are coming by. And she'll be like, sometimes I'm naughty. And then she'll like go through and she's like, I did A, B, and C. And I'm like, it's okay. Like, it's all right. You owned up to it. That's what we're teaching here.
If we're all honest, every parent has done that. And like, I know there's every kid is good all the way through. And I believe that to be true, right? We're all good inside. But like my husband, he would never listen to this. So it doesn't matter what I say about him, but he does this thing, and I had to be like, you got to stop doing this. Cause honestly, with the temperament of our kids, it just ramps up anxiety. And then they're older now. It's fine. Now they're like, you're annoying, Dad. But, he would call Santa.
Yeah.
Do you know about the hotline?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. He'd be like, oh, you need to chill out. I'm going to call Santa. And then he'd call Santa and put him on speaker. I was like, what are you? This is not a parenting strategy, dude. What are you doing? But
everyone does it at some point.
Everybody does it at some point.
Well, and my husband will do it because my husband, it works sometimes and not always, because I don't want them to be scared of Santa either. So, but my big thing that my husband will do is he'll do something like, we're going back up to the beach in a few weeks, but he'll threaten, he'll be like, that's it. Vacation's canceled. And I'm like,
you're not going to cancel it.
Exactly. Or it's like, or before Christmas, that's it. Cancel. Christmas is canceled.
Christmas is over.
And I'm like,
gifts are going back.
Like you're not going to do that. Like, let's be honest.
Like you're not credible.
Exactly. I was like, let's give credible things as to what's going on. But it's like, it's the words that come out of my parents' mouth. Like it's a very generational thing where I can catch myself doing it. My mom used to always threaten, it's the man. She would always say the man is going to come and yell at you. It was just the man.
The man?
And it would be if it were at the store. Because she was like, I didn't have you guys, like and I know as a kid, I don't think we ever threw tantrums at a store. And it was usually because she looked at us, she's like, the man's going to come over and yell at you. And I look at my mom. My mom is she's great. She's a great mom. But she I think of things that she told me and I'm like, I mean,
a little questionable.
Or she'd be like, if we did start acting up, she'd be like, everyone's looking at you. And I'd be like, I'm like, Mom, maybe this is why we have some social anxiety, lady. Like, come on.
Isn't that the wild part of motherhood? Is like, gosh, it really does help you reflect on you're like, oh, that's why I do what I do. Yeah. It's like all these things come rushing to the forefront. You're like, oh, it's because my parent did this, or my mom said this, or the man is genius. That's ridiculous.
Well, and on a flip side of because I know your book is about losing yourself in motherhood and things like that. Like I think a big portion of that, of losing ourselves, I think for us, especially like generation of like us having kids and stuff and versus our parents, is I feel like so much stuff was so sheltered from us that like, I don't think we were ever adequately prepared. And I don't think you can adequately prepare anyone for motherhood anyhow, but I feel like it was never set up to be the best circumstance in terms of like given a realistic, like, hey, this is kind of what it looks like type of approach.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, I know for me, like I totally lost myself in motherhood.
I'm sure. Gosh. I think everybody does. Yeah. Everybody does. Even if it's like for just a period of time, I think we all do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's funny. Like when I talk to my mom about motherhood, and I'll be like, what did you do, Mom? When you like didn't know how to handle this, and this? She's like, I just called my friend and did what they did. Like there was such different standards, it feels like, around what it meant to be a good mom.
Yeah. And
like, I mean, I had a great mom. My mom had some things, and like we talk about it now, and she's kind of like, hopefully that was okay. Hopefully, like, seems like you're okay. So didn't do too much damage. Like there's a lot more like, I don't know. There's a lot more almost forgiveness that they have for themselves that we don't really seem to offer ourselves, or this, just like this intensive parenting, the cycle breaker movement that we are in, which I think is a great thing. But I also think sometimes we can take it a little bit too far, and that's sort of setting us up to be just kind of like, held captive in parenting, a little bit miserable sometimes, because the reality is you don't leave childhood without something. Like you're not going to get out of your childhood without taking some sort of issue that you need to work through in adulthood. And I honestly feel like that's a little bit of like part of what we got to do as adults, is we got to figure out, okay, this affected me. How do I want to make meaning of it, or to change it, or to revise it, or do things differently? I think that's something that kind of is our responsibility as adults. And I think too is like an important piece for moms to remember is that you can have the best of intentions and how you parent your children, but you cannot control how you are interpreted.
Yeah.
That is totally subjective. And so I know, like, I've sat with my dad before. I had a great dad, but there were some things and I was like, that's kind of how I took it. And he was like, I don't remember saying that. And I was like, I don't know if you said it, but this is how I absorbed it.
Yeah.
It's like, I guess I can see that. That's not at all how I meant it. And I think that's a piece that, is a nuanced piece that we need to remember as moms and as dads to and parents to really be gracious with ourselves, because at the end of the day, we can do the best job we could do, but like our kids are going to make meaning of it however they.
Yeah. Well, and that's actually that's a great point. I had another guest on, and she's just a mom account. She's growing on social media, but she used to work with adolescents as like a guidance counselor in schools. And she was talking about that, and she said the same exact thing. And I was so glad that she did, because right afterwards I came downstairs and I don't know what, how I forget what the scenarios were, because just like every day's a blur, but something happened. It was again with my oldest, and I think I yelled because she did something. I don't really know. And right afterwards, she looked at me and she said, I'm not a beautiful girl. I'm a stupid girl. I never said anything like that. I never at all. And it was how she interpreted whatever I had said to her as that. And then I sat with her after, but the girl I had on the podcast had said the same exact thing. She said, kids fill in the blanks. She said they will fill in the blanks with their own definition. And sometimes it's not always a fun definition that they have. So you want to kind of give that room for discussion afterwards. And I let things settle. And then I talked to her, and I mean, she's 5.5. How much she took from that, I don't know. But I think that was like a good eye-opening experience for me to like not just brush things off and be like, that's it, feel however you want to feel. Like I want my kids to, I think ownership is like the big portion that I push for. Like I'm not pushing for perfection in how I act towards my kids. Or like, I've had people reach out to me before because they yelled at their kids, and they said that that's a cycle that they want to break, and they felt like a failure because they slipped. And I'm like, you're not failing. I think the norm, what you're trying to break is your parents yelling at you and then not explaining the situation.
That's the thing. It's like completing the loop or something with your kids. I feel like it's so beautiful that she shared that with you. She didn't keep, some kids though are just kind of made where they will keep things in a little bit more. My daughter's more like this, but she shared it with you. She felt safe enough to be like, this is how I'm interpreting it. And it gave you an opportunity, which is awesome. You took a hold of, which is to repair and to help her revise. I feel like when kids fill in the blanks, they don't always get it right. And so part of our job as parents is to not be perfect, but not even close. But our job is to like help them fill in the blanks differently or accurately, or give them a space to share how they're filling them in, and to be like, this is what actually was happening. And also to repair when we've kind of like made a mistake. And that's really where I think some of the most important work is done in parenting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I want to talk more. I want to talk more about your book, and then we'll wrap things up and whatnot. Okay. But tell everyone about your book, because I'm excited for it.
So it's like, okay, I have to like take a deep breath because the subtitle's so long. So it's Love Your Kids Without Losing Yourself: 5 Steps to Banish Guilt and Beat Burnout When You Already Have Too Much to Do. And my book is really a book based on this idea that we need to learn how to mother ourselves like we mother our kids. And the short version is go mom yourself. And my main point is like, we already as moms are the master managers of all of the people and all of the things. We take care of everyone. We don't turn these same skill sets toward ourselves. And so we don't need lists of self-care ideas. That already exists, and it just gives us more to do that we don't have time for. And then it's like one more way we can feel like we're falling short when we don't get to the lists. We don't need cliches that actually don't offer practical advice. What we need is a plan for how we manage our relationship with ourselves, because we have one with ourselves that is almost always the one that gets backburnered the most. And so my book offers an actual strategy, a plan. How do you manage your relationship with yourself? What does that look like in practical terms? I give a model of relationships, and the meat of the book is walking through that model. And it's like, it goes deep into each area and then offers practical takeaways. And so the idea is that when you go mom yourself, you take a minute to do like a self scan or a self check-in. And then I give you what are you checking in on? How do you do it? Yeah. And then what do you do in the moment to make quick adjustments and changes to your relationship with yourself to feel better in motherhood? Because I don't think it's like, we don't need like a sabbatical. I mean, it'd be nice, right, to have like this sabbatical approach, but that's not always feasible. But like, how does a single mom feel better in motherhood if she doesn't have anyone to rely on for support? How do us moms who have traveling partners or who stay at home and don't have family support, or like, how do we feel better? And so I wanted a book that fit for all of those scenarios and offered moms efficient strategies for feeling better.
And I love that, only because I think the great thing, but also the heartbreaking thing about like my platform and the conversations I have with women is they get these advice and things like that. But a lot of them, what I'm finding is, the scenarios, whether they're military spouses or single spouses, or a lot of them have spouses that are not in support of anything that they want to do. And that kills me for them. So a lot of them are like, how am I supposed to do anything when I have a spouse that's basically shitting all over that? So I always feel bad for that, because I'm like, I get stuck in offering, and I don't like giving advice because I'm like, I'm just really good at listening. I'm not an expert, but I was like, we need books like that in order for us to figure out what we can do amongst the mess.
I mean, that's kind of the thing. I was like, I'm actually writing another book on the mental load, which will be more involved about like the partner piece. So I was like, I wanted to start out by writing a book. What's a mom do if she can't control anybody else around her and like have them fall in line? Because I have community too, and I get messages like that too. And it's so hard to hear stories of women who have partners who don't step up, don't like seemingly don't care about how they feel in motherhood. And so it was like, I need a book that will work for any of these scenarios. What are you empowered to do as an individual to feel better? And if you have a supportive staff or support system, then like wonderful, that's bonus. But what can you do as an individual to feel better? Because I think, at the end of the day, we want to be amazing moms, but we don't want to do it at the sacrifice of our sanity and our well-being. So it's like, we want to be good moms. We want to feel good in motherhood. So it's trying to kind of navigate those two pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, when's it come out? When's your book come out?
Oh yeah. It comes out September 19th. It's for pre-order now. Okay. And there's tons of incentives when you pre-order. I'll tell you one, which is that you get the audio version of the intro and chapters 1 and 2 immediately. So you can actually start the book right away when you pre-order.
Awesome. Okay. Well, good. I will put that link for everyone listening. I will put that link in the episode. I believe your episode is going to come out, or this is going to come out in September. So I will put it before that comes. I'll take a look at the calendar and see if I can align it. What day is the 19th?
Yikes. Is it a Monday?
I don't know. Let me look.
I'm looking. Oh, it's a Tuesday.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So, I mean, I can put this episode out on a Tuesday if you want.
Like the week before? Do you think you could do that?
I can do it the week before. Yeah. I can do it the week before, or I could do it on the day of, whatever.
The week before. I'm trying to get pre-sales.
Okay.
Yeah. That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Right. Of course. Yeah. So everyone go order that book.
Go get the book.
I'm excited. I'm excited for it. I think every mom needs that. It's just, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I don't think we're given the space to be able to say that it's a lot, because everyone makes it seem like if we say that, then we don't like it. And that's
Which is crazy to me. Yeah.
No.
Both things are true at the same time. Life is like that, right?
Everything is
Life is full of two true contradictions.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You can love it and also not like every single bit of it, and still love the entire picture. That's what I always say. I'm like, if you zoom in on a photo, you might see something that you're not necessarily a fan of, but from the big picture, you love everything about it. And it's just how it is. So awesome.
So
well, thank you so much for being on. I love this.
Thank
this is a great conversation. Of course. Everyone go check out Dr. Morgan. Like I said, I'm going to put everything in my show notes and order the book. Go follow her on Instagram. Please go follow her on Instagram. I'm saying this as someone that loves following her and the content that she puts out. It's very refreshing. It's practical. It's realistic and attainable. And that's exactly what we need. So
totally. Thank you so much.
Of course. Another episode down. Thank you all so much for listening. If you loved today's episode, I would be so appreciative if you would leave a rating and review. I cannot begin to tell you how much those mean to me, but also how much they help me get in front of more eyes and more ears. As always, be sure to check back every Tuesday and Friday for a new episode, whether it's an episode with me and my husband, me and Katie, or just another incredible, amazing guest. Stay tuned for more honest, real, raw chit-chat. And hey, do me a favor before you go. Remind yourself how amazing you are, how enough you are, how special you are. And boy, oh boy, I sure am glad to have you here. Thanks, friend.